Lucy, daughter of Hank McLean, one of the executives of Vault-Tec, had been trained since childhood to follow instructions in the vault. She grew up to be a loyal representative of her parents, but something happened that would lead her out of the bunker and towards the outside world, where she would discover a terrible truth. Her father had lied to her all her life. Her father, Hank, had created the society that Lucy grew up in and experimented on its people, including her. Furthermore, Hank had been one of the people responsible for the nuclear holocaust. He was, and still is, the architect of the lies that Lucy and the outside world had lived in for at least 200 years. Lucy's story and her journey towards the truth sound cliché, as it fulfills one of the most repeated story archetypes, the same element we've seen in other works like The Matrix, Tron, or The Truman Show, and whose origins can be found in Plato's book, The Republic. The book tells an allegory so revolutionary that it has been the origin of religions and many works of fiction, books, movies, etc. Plato's allegory of the cave connects to the story of Fallout. Now, how could a story from over 2,000 years ago explain the story of a post-apocalyptic world destroyed by nuclear bombs? Let's find out. Imagine a group of people who have lived inside a cave since forever, chained in such a way that they can only look forward at one of the cave walls. Behind them is a bonfire, and between the fire and the prisoners, someone is projecting shadow figures onto the wall. The only thing the chained men perceive is the shadows projected on the cave wall. For them, these shadows are real. They give them names, argue about them, and believe they know what the world is like, even though they have never seen anything outside these shadow puppets. Now let's imagine that one of the chained men is unchained and freed from the cave. The person who sees the light of the fire will realize that the shadows weren't real. They were just objects. Then he will see that there is another, much larger source of light. Upon leaving the cave, he will discover that there is something called the sun. When he looks up at the star, he is momentarily blinded because he has never seen anything so bright. Then, after understanding the truth of the world, the freed man returns to the cave to help the others. Upon returning, he finds it difficult to see in the darkness. He stumbles, and the other prisoners mock him. The freed man explains to the others that there is another world outside the cave, but they don't believe him. They say that he went mad after leaving the cave, and that they no longer want him in the cave. Furthermore, when he tries to free them, they become hostile. Why? Well, because they don't want him to destroy their world. Plato said that if they could, they would have killed him to protect what they know. For Plato, the cave is a metaphor for human ignorance and man's struggle to escape from it. Not everyone can get to the other side, but those who do and return to warn others are often cast out. This is also the tragedy of Socrates, who after knowing the truth was put down by his own people. This is the story of other messianic archetypes, such as Jesus or Buddha, or fictional characters such as Neo or Kevin Flynn. And it is also Lucy's story. They are all archetypes of the savior who awaken from the lies of their world of shadows. Born underground, Lucy grows up in a world created by Vault-Tec. She lives in ignorance of the real world and under arbitrary rules. Each vault has different rules, so you could say that each one contains a different world for those who live in it.
Where are you taking it?
To the real world. You should see it sometime.
The vaults, as you might have already guessed, are a parallel to Plato's allegory of the cave. It's a psychological and sociological experiment, as within the vaults, there are false societies, shadows created to deceive people to perfect the imperfect world. In the first episode of the second season of Fallout, we saw a vault where the people were manipulated with communist propaganda, and one particular person was shown tied to a chair. Doesn't that sound familiar? How this allegory is repeated thousands of years later. It's the same story, the same tale that Plato wrote about an enlightened person who tries to warn others about the world that lies beyond the shadows. So what is Fallout about? For the Gnostics, the real world was nothing more than a construct of an imperfect and arrogant creator who believed they could seize all power and create their perfect world, but instead created an imperfect one, full of contradictions and suffering. Lucy's father is this imperfect demiurge who destroyed the world to rebuild it in his own image. He created the cave to subjugate human consciousness underground and maintain control over what happened in that world. The story hidden behind Fallout is the same repeated story about how the human soul struggles to find the truth in a world full of lies. Even when your reality is constructed by your parents, by your religion, by your politics, or by society, there is still the feeling of wanting to escape the system.
I am the architect. I created the Matrix.
There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you.
I took the system to its maximum potential. I created the perfect system.
It is poetic that even today, in one of the most difficult moments in our history, where it's becoming more difficult to tell the difference between what is fake and what is real because of artificial intelligence, Plato's allegory of the cave remains more relevant than ever. Its structure continues to repeat itself to the point that it has been a constant warning for more than 2,000 years. But we must not confuse the shadows with the truth. Are we destined to forever live in shadows, or will we find the way out of the cave? This allegory reveals something important that applies to Lucy and perhaps to our world, and that is that the truth is not shared. Lucy cannot save the people of her vault. As we have already seen in the first season, Lucy has lost her innocence in more than one way, and if she tried to reintegrate into Vault 33, she would end up destroying that society, or that society would end up destroying her. As Plato rightly said, and I'm paraphrasing, too much knowledge would be a problem for those who live in ignorance. Lucy chose to continue her journey to stop her father. Her purpose now is to destroy the old system, and as in other stories that have these archetypes, Lucy may end up sacrificing herself to save or restart the world. She is a moral anomaly. She is the only person willing to help anyone and sees the good in people, and the harsh Wasteland is putting that goodness to the test. Will she stay true to her naive optimism? The story of Fallout is the same story of the Messianic archetype trying to escape a cave of shadows and lies, while possibly being part of the very system they're trying to stop. It's the same story that repeats itself like clockwork, with no one able to stop it.
Where's Robert House?
He's gone. He had all the money in the world, but all he really wanted was to live forever.
Before the Great War of 2077, Robert House made preparations to expand his reach and stay alive after the end of the world. The story of Mr. House, who rose to the top and gained nearly everything he desired, began with tragedy. Robert Edwin House was born on June 25, 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. At barely 2 years of age, young Robert became an orphan. His parents were traveling in an autogyro when it was struck by lightning. The death of his parents left him in the hands of his half-brother Anthony, who stole his inheritance and left him on the streets. House grew up without a family, but developed a brilliant mind. This allowed him to enter the Commonwealth Institute of Technology, where he excelled in science. Robert demonstrated great aptitude for robotics and vowed to fight and avoid death. Robert sought immortality and to be the inventor who would change the course of history. In 2042, at the age of 22, he surprised the market with the founding of Robco Industries. He quickly became one of the youngest billionaires of his time, and Robco grew to be one of the highest valued companies in the world in just a few months. His inventions in computing and robotics were a phenomenon in the global market. His software programs became the world standard, but his inventions were not as impressive as his negotiation skills. It is said that House created a corporate system based on legal loopholes and monopoly strategies to exploit every possible economic strategy that allowed him to experiment on people, animals, and other unethical practices without being reprimanded, judged, or fined. Robert gradually molded society as he wished. He didn't care for the negative public opinions towards him. The only thing that mattered to House was that he was in a race against time and needed to find immortality. By the late 2060s, Robco robots were everywhere, on the streets, in businesses, in homes, and military installations. His company won most of the government contracts, and through alliances with other megacorporations, went from selling robots to controlling infrastructures and providing large-scale security and defense. Later, Robco became involved in the creation of the Pip-Boy 2000 and 3000, the most iconic devices in the Fallout world, the tool that every Vault-Tec survivor needs. Faced with the growing fear of nuclear war, Robert House joined all megacorporations and created the grand plan for their survival.
How can you guarantee results?
By dropping the bomb ourselves.
Robert created a defense system for Las Vegas to withstand the apocalypse. He didn't trust Vault-Tec or the government. He trusted only his technology, which would be his refuge when the end came. Some theories suggest Robert may have collaborated with Vault-Tec in causing the nuclear holocaust. House made a pact so that his city, Las Vegas, wouldn't be completely destroyed. As of this video, it is unknown how deeply involved Robert is in the causing of the end of the world. But what is clear is that Robert was one of the few who were prepared for the end of the world. On October 23rd, when the bombs fell, Las Vegas was still standing, and the robots that Robert had scattered throughout the Wasteland began to work, observed, record, and wait, always ready to destroy once commanded. However, Robert failed to complete the final software update that would turn his machines into soldiers. That update was lost under rubble. And here is where Victor appears.
Howdy, partner.
Is that you, Victor?
Victor? Well, that sure does sound familiar.
It's uncertain when Victor was created. Victor isn't just one robot. It is many robots, called Securitrons. On the day the bombs fell, Robert tried to update all Securitrons to Victor's level, but the process was incomplete. Only Victor can enter true soldier mode.
Come on, dickhead.
These robots were designed to be security guards, used in public and private locations. They operated with a shared artificial intelligence, capable of functioning without relying on their creator for every action. These machines are strong and durable, but most importantly, Victor's consciousness can transfer from one Securitron body to another. If its body is destroyed, it moves to another.
Much obliged, Victor.
Well, I'll be seeing you.
I'm sure you will.
So what is this robot really? After the bombs fell, the Robco security model 2060B became Robert House's eyes and ears. With his toys, Robert gathered information from places well outside his reach, without exposing himself to danger and risking his life. In the video games, Victor is a menacing presence that watches what happens, a shadow that is always lurking nearby. And the show properly adapts this robot. Victor is Robert House's eyes and ears in the Wasteland. This is the biggest clue that Robert is still alive, waiting for the moment to reveal himself. Now, how does Cooper know Victor? In the episode, the two of them recognize each other as if they were old acquaintances, or even friends. For a long time, people have wondered why Victor's personality is that of a cowboy. There is a theory that Victor's personality is based on Robert's idealization of Cooper. Victor is a protector inspired by Cooper Howard, the cowboy hero from the movies. The robot's AI could be the version of the hero that society wanted Cooper to be. And upon seeing the robot, Cooper reconnects with his past self, his better self. Another interesting detail that the machine and Ghoul share is that they cannot die. Victor is that eternal hero created with a purpose to defend the system. The robot cowboy is always ready for a scrap, another cruel reminder for Cooper of what his life used to be. Now, Victor, Robert, and Cooper are based on old archetypes from old stories where a creator, unable to be everywhere, sends their creation to walk among men, to observe them, to record what they do, and to intervene when necessary. In Egyptian mythology, there is a symbol that fits perfectly with the robot, the Eye of Ra. It represents an extension of the deity Ra. It is his projected self, an eye that can act on its own as an independent entity and that manifests in different ways depending on the need. It can protect, punish, warn, and impose order. It is the God touching the world without descending from the skies. The unsettling truth is that Victor is the eye of Robert House. The robot is the extension of the creator among men. No matter how many times the eye is destroyed, no matter what physical form it uses, or whether it appears as a friend or foe, it continues to fulfill its creator's purpose. Victor is Robert House's eternal enforcer.
But you know what they say in Vegas? Everyone's a winner, eventually.
The same goes for losing in my experience, except for one man, the man that built you.
In the ruins of a once powerful civilization dwell creatures born from humanity's deepest and darkest nightmares. The deathclaw was created as a new biological species, a soldier that would replace humans in times of war. They were the ultimate weapon, ferocious, terrifying, and lethal. But after the nuclear holocaust, these creatures of nightmares became a plague that threatened to become the world's new dominant species. To understand what these creatures are, we must go back to before the nuclear bombs fell. The United States competed for resources and contracted several companies to help them. Tech companies like Robco were contracted to manufacture the government's computer systems. Vault-Tec was hired to build underground bunkers, or vaults. The US military's Biotechnology Research Division was given the strangest and darkest contract of all, to create an unstoppable biological creature using genes from the animal kingdom's strongest creatures to be used in battle. And so the codenamed Chameleon was created, but in the Wasteland, it is known by another name, the Deathclaw. Deathclaws are basically overgrown mutated chameleons. This is an important detail about the creature, as this monstrosity can turn invisible. Now, how were they created? The initial step was to map the genetic code of the chameleon and other animals with useful traits, like the resilient skin of a bear and the sharp claws of a jaguar. Those genes were mixed, and from that crossbreeding, a black chimera was born, the creature designed to inflict death on its enemies, and it was under the control of the government, but not for long. Next, the chameleon's body size was altered, taking it up to a scale impossible for any bipedal animal, more than twice the height of the average man. Its muscle mass was significantly amplified, its body's endurance to damage pushed to its limit, and its metabolism adjusted to sustain a massive body that wouldn't get tired. Its head was elevated for a better and broader field of view. Its limbs were redesigned to function as weapons, and since the creature walks on two legs, they were hardened to a point of being almost impervious. Thus, the perfect nuclear war creature was created. But the most disturbing thing is that this creature acts like a real animal. Some run in packs, and they reproduce. The female deathclaws lay eggs capable of developing in the most inhospitable of places. The alpha male fertilizes the eggs of the strongest females, thus ensuring the next generation of deathclaws will be stronger than the current one. The alpha also never leaves its territory. It is fixed on attacking and killing anything that goes near its nest. The genetic experimentations that created the deathclaw were so successful that the government scientists requested the Army's high command to allow them to test this monster in combat. And in 2077, in the Battle of Alaska, this devil was put to the test. Cooper witnessed firsthand the creature's effectiveness and lethality. This was undoubtedly the perfect successor, or rather replacement, of human soldiers. It also helps that the creature can survive the end of the world. When the atomic bombs fell, humanity was nearly completely wiped out, but the mutant chameleons, the Deathclaws, escaped from the facilities that held them captive. The nuclear wasteland was the perfect habitat for the monsters, and so they began to build nests, sowing terror among those who survived the end of the world. In the 4th episode of the 2nd season of Fallout, we saw this creature during Cooper Howard's operation. And then at the end of the episode in New Vegas. Which reveals that these creatures have overpopulated parts of the United States and possibly other parts of the world. The biological weapon created by the government is a biblical plague. In the post-apocalyptic world, no one knows the original purpose of the Deathclaws or why they were created. The governments of the old world were gone, but these creatures remain, roaming the wasteland, a reminder of the corruption of those who were in power. Historically, variations of the deathclaw have existed in the Fallout games, in particular a race of these monsters with high levels of intelligence, with their own civilization, and who only desire to live in peace. Be that as it may, the deathclaw is not simply an obstacle for Lucy and Cooper. It is a new civilization flourishing from the nuclear ashes. Perhaps they are not just a replacement for human soldiers, but for humanity itself. Although they were created as biological weapons, the deathclaw could turn out to be the inheritors of the planet. But it's very important to remember this one thing. Just as the United States was able to control the deathclaws for a time, another party could also do so. A villainous force operating from the shadows, using these creatures of death.
Okie dokie.
And here comes the symbolism of the deathclaw. With their deep roots in mythology, they don't appear just as another creature in the Wasteland, but as an ancient idea that appears in different forms and legends. The Chimera, a monster assembled from other animals, created from the desire for power. The Chimera is what happens when nature is tampered with, a creature that goes against creation, taking fragments of life and forcing them together to create new life, which is then used as a tool. And as all the stories about the Chimera reflect, this act of playing God never ends well. The creature ceases to be a tool and becomes a punishment for its deranged creators. The story of the Deathclaws also resembles the legend of the Golem, a tale from Jewish legend that speaks of a being created to protect humans. Initially, it obeys, it fulfills its function, it defends. However, over time, the Golem loses its ability to distinguish between whom it should protect and whom it should destroy, contradicting its intended purpose. The Guardian becomes death itself. Similarly, the Deathclaw is a creation designed to protect and kill. The beast of the Wasteland continues to exist without purpose, a feral animal, guided solely by instinct and the violence programmed into it from its creation. The Deathclaw represents humanity's deepest fear, creating something more terrifying than fear itself. They are a reminder that every creation born from the desire for control inevitably escapes and destroys its creator. I'm a Gloomy Geek, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okie dokie.